Hello, this is Leon Levi. I don't know about you, but sometimes I am not in the mood for bright worlds and happy endings. I want shadows, mystery, and that heavy, eerie vibe that only the darkest Metroidvania games can deliver. The kind of games where every corridor feels dangerous, every soundtrack hits your soul, and every boss makes you question your life choices. If you grew up loving pixel art, moody atmospheres, and secrets hidden behind breakable walls, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to break down 16 absolute darkest Metroidvania games that you need to play in 2026. Before moving to our first game, drop your favorite Metroidvania in the comments.
On the ocean to secure that peace. Failing this mission would surely plunge us into darker days.
Salt and Sanctuary. Some games don't even try to welcome you in, and Salt and Sanctuary is one of those. You're shipwrecked, alone, and the world instantly feels hostile. This 2D action RPG/Metroidvania from Ska Studios dropped in 2016 and later spread across PS4, PS Vita, PC, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. The combat is slow, weighty, and all about stamina, so every swing, block, and dodge feels risky instead of mindless. The massive skill tree lets you lean into heavy armor, nimble dodger, archer, or creepy spellcaster, which makes every build feel personal. The island itself is a miserable labyrinth of ruined castles, catacombs, and cursed villages that wrap back on themselves in that classic Metroidvania way. If you love retro difficulty but want something darker and more oppressive than the old days ever dared to be, Salt and Sanctuary is the kind of game that leaves you tense, drained, and weirdly satisfied.
The Arch-Confraternity awaits you. Those penitents that the miracle itself took as its sentinels.
Blasphemous 2. Right from the first screen, Blasphemous 2 doesn't feel like a game. It feels like stepping into a heretical painting that someone should have burned centuries ago. You return as the penitent one in this 2023 sequel, now on PC, PS5, Xbox Series XS, and Nintendo Switch. The combat is sharper and more flexible than the first game, giving you a choice of main weapons that completely change how you move, combo, and explore. Abilities double as transversal tools, turning grim cathedrals and decaying cities into platforming gauntlets full of hidden paths and nasty surprises. The religious horror is heavy. Bleeding icons, twisted saints, and NPCs that talk like they crawled out of some cursed scripture. It's the kind of world that makes you curious and uncomfortable at the same time. If you want a dark Metroidvania where gameplay feels tight, boss fights are brutal, and the atmosphere is almost suffocating, this is a no-brainer for your 2026 backlog. Castlevania, Aria of Sorrow. Every time I go back to Aria of Sorrow, I'm reminded why people still won't shut up about peak Castlevania. Released in 2003 on the Game Boy Advance, and now bundled in the Castlevania Advance Collection for modern systems, it's a perfect blend of retro simplicity and surprisingly deep systems. You play as Soma Cruz, a seemingly normal kid dragged into Dracula's castle, slowly realizing he has a terrifying connection to its dark power. The tactical soul system is genius. Almost every enemy can drop a soul that gives you new attacks, passives, or movement options, turning grinding into genuine experimentation. The castle layout is tight and satisfying, with secret rooms, hidden bosses, and multiple endings that push you to explore every corner. Aesthetically, it mixes classic Gothic horror with a slightly futuristic edge, which gives it a unique flavor among Castlevanias. If you grew up with handhelds and want something that still feels timeless, moody, and mechanically addictive, Aria of Sorrow is mandatory. Infernax. If you've ever looked at an old NES cart and thought, man, this could have been way more messed up, Infernax answers that wish. This 2022 title from Berserk Studio, available on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, channels Castlevania 2 and Zelda 2, but turns the violence and darkness up several notches. You're a knight returning home to find it overrun by grotesque demons and cult horrors. And the game isn't shy about throwing moral choices at you. Helping a villager, ignoring them, or choosing the selfish option can completely change quests, bosses, and even your ending. The gameplay hits that sweet spot between stiff retro challenge and modern responsiveness. Tight platforming, chunky melee hits, simple magic, and upgrades that make you just strong enough to dare the next region. The pixel art leans into body horror and satanic imagery in a way that feels like a cursed 80s VHS game. If you want something that feels authentically old school, but also shockingly brutal and reactive, Infernax is absolutely worth your time in 2026. Moonscars. There's a special kind of dread when a game looks like a painting that's slowly rotting in front of you. And Moonscars nails that feeling. Released in 2022 on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, it throws you into a bleak, clay-like world as the warrior Grey Irma. The combat is fast, precise, and unforgiving, blending dodges, parries, and special abilities that reward aggression but punish panic. You unlock new powers and tools that open up alternate routes and shortcuts, giving it that Metroidvania loop of one more run, one more secret. What really sets Moonscars apart is its visual identity. The grim, painting-like art style and sickly color palette makes every corridor feel like it's soaked in despair. The story leans into themes of identity, sacrifice, and the horror of being created for a purpose you don't fully understand. If you're into games that feel like a nightmare you can't quite decode, beautiful, harsh, and mysterious, this one deserves a spot on your darkest of the dark list.
Have lost hope.
Vigil, The Longest Night. You know that vibe where a game feels like a lost PS2 or late 90s dark fantasy project that somehow resurfaced? Vigil, The Longest Night scratches that itch. Released in 2020 on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, it mixes Metroidvania structure with Souls-like combat in a world that's constantly on the edge of night. You play as Layla, a member of an order of knights trying to uncover the truth behind a spreading cosmic darkness. Combat is methodical, with multiple weapon types, dodge rolls, and careful stamina use rather than mindless hacking. As you explore, you pick up skills that expand both your movesets and transversal options, slowly piecing together shortcuts and hidden areas across a twisted countryside and decaying towns. The art direction leans into detailed hand-drawn horrors, mutated beasts, warped humans, and unsettling environmental details. It's perfect for players who like moody, lore-driven worlds where reading item descriptions and talking to weird NPCs actually matter. Unworthy. Unworthy does something bold right out of the gate. It takes away your jump button. That alone sets the tone for how harsh and different this 2018 PC-focused Metroidvania-style action game really is. You control a nameless warrior in a black and white world, relying on dodges, rolls, and careful positioning instead of standard platforming. It feels more like a 2D boss rush Soulslike at times, with tight arenas and brutal enemies that punish sloppy play. As you progress, you unlock new abilities and tools that expand how you move and fight, gradually opening up new areas in true Metroidvania fashion. The stark aesthetic, just shadows, silhouettes, and splashes of visual emphasis, makes the world feel lifeless in a deliberate, oppressive way. This one goes for the hardcore crowd, the people who enjoy dying a lot but learning with every run. If you want something mechanically distinct and visually minimal, but emotionally heavy, Unworthy earns its place among the darkest picks. Dark devotion. There's a certain kind of religious horror that doesn't rely on jump scares, just the feeling that your faith might be killing you. And Dark Devotion leans all the way into that. Released in 2019 on PC and later on consoles, it puts you in the boots of a devoted warrior delving into a cursed temple in the name of your god. The 2D combat is slow, weighty, and stamina-driven, with shields, parries, and weapon choices that force you to commit to every attack. Progression works through gear, blessings, and permanent unlocks, giving each run a sense of slow, painful forward motion even when you die. The temple's corridors are filled with traps, grotesque enemies, and cryptic altars that sometimes help you and sometimes feel like they're laughing at you. The art direction and music push that grim, monastic mood, and it's way more dread than outright terror. If you like dark fantasy that questions devotion and rewards perseverance, this one fits perfectly in a darkest Metroidvania marathon. Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth. On the surface, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth looks almost too pretty and colorful to sit on a darkest list. But there's a melancholy under everything that really sticks with you. Released in 2021 on PC and later on consoles, it's set in the classic Record of Lodoss War universe and stars the elf Deedlit as she wanders a mysterious, shifting labyrinth. The gameplay feels like a love letter to Symphony of the Night. Tight sword combat, magic, and a ton of hidden rooms and shortcuts. The big twist is the elemental spirit system, where you swap between wind and fire, and other elements, to float, negate traps, or boost your attacks, which adds a really fun rhythm to both combat and exploration. Even though the pixel art is gorgeous, there's a loneliness to the world. Familiar faces appear like echoes, and you're constantly wondering what's real. Fans of classic anime fantasy and old-school Castlevania will feel right at home here, especially if they appreciate a more subtle kind of emotional darkness. GRIME. GRIME is the kind of game that makes you pause for a second and ask, what am I even looking at? And that's exactly its charm. Released in 2021 on PC and later on consoles, it's a brutal action Metroidvania where you play as a living, walking black hole with a stone head, smashing and absorbing grotesque enemies. Combat is fast and aggressive, with a big focus on parrying and consuming foes to gain new traits and upgrades. The world design is bizarre and alien. Fleshy towers, crumbling organic architecture, and creatures that look like failed experiments at creation. As you explore and unlock new movement abilities, you piece together a non-linear map that feels both alien and strangely coherent. Underneath all the weirdness, there's a story about identity and purpose in a broken world, told mostly through visual storytelling and cryptic dialogue. If you're tired of standard fantasy and want something that feels like a fever dream given controller support, GRIME is a perfect dark detour.
The dead are constantly reminded of their time away from this life, hiding in the shadows of the moon.
The Last Faith. If someone told you, what if Bloodborne and Symphony of the Night had a 2D baby? Yeah, it sounds funny, but The Last Faith is basically that sentence turned into a game. Released in 2023 for PC, PS5, Xbox Series XS, and Switch, it drops you into a cursed city full of ancient gods, religion gone wrong, and monstrosities waiting in the fog. The combat is crunchy and stylish, mixing melee weapons, guns, and magic in a way that lets you craft your own flavor of Monster Hunter. As you gain new transversal tools and powers, the world opens up into hidden churches, crypts, and streets that loop back into cleverly placed shortcuts. The Gothic visuals are ridiculously detailed. Stained glass, crumbling spires, and abominations that feel straight out of a Victorian nightmare. It's tailor-made for players who love moody, lore-heavy exploration and that just one more boss attempt feeling. For a 2026 dark Metroidvania binge, this one is almost too on brand in the best way. Eldritchvania. Some indie games wear their intentions right in the title, and Eldritchvania is exactly what it sounds like. Castlevania plus cosmic horror. Released in 2023 on PC, it's a smaller scale Metroidvania that leans into Lovecraftian themes and unsettling atmosphere more than big flashy production. You explore a gloomy, corrupted world filled with cults, tentacled nightmares, and secrets tucked just off the main path. Combat is straightforward, but satisfying. giving you a mix of melee and ranged tools while you gradually expand your movement options. What really sells it is the mood. Eerie sound design, ominous backgrounds, and that constant feeling that you're poking at forces you were never meant to see. It's perfect for players who want a shorter, focused experience that still scratches that dark exploration itch. If you're the type who loves digging up obscure horror Metroidvanias on PC, this is exactly the kind of hidden gem you'd brag about discovering. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. Ender Lilies looks gentle at first. You're playing as a small, pale priestess in a ruined kingdom. But don't let that fool you. This game is emotionally crushing. Released in 2021 on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, it's an action Metroidvania where you don't fight directly. Instead, you summon the spirits of fallen warriors to battle for you. Combat feels elegant and sad at the same time. Every new spirit you gain used to be a boss or major character, and their moves become part of your kit. Exploration is classic Metroidvania, with new abilities unlocking alternate routes and secrets across swamps, castles, and twisted churches drenched in rain and despair. The music is hauntingly beautiful, and the story, mostly delivered through visuals and fragments, hits themes of guilt, corruption, and mercy. If you want a dark game that doesn't just challenge your reflexes but also quietly breaks your heart, Ender Lilies is a must-play.
You're broken. Still okay on the inside, though.
Ghost Song. There's something special about games that make you feel genuinely alone. And Ghost Song absolutely nails that lonely explorer vibe. Released in 2022 on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, it strands you on a desolate alien moon full of ruins, bioluminescent caves, and strange life forms. You control a mysterious armored figure, blending range shots with melee and upgrades that gradually expand how far and how safely you can push into the unknown. The map slowly unfolds in those satisfying Metroidvania loops, with new abilities letting you return to earlier zones and discover areas that were quietly mocking you before. The art style is soft but eerie, like an old sci-fi illustration brought to life, and the soundtrack leans into melancholy rather than bombast. Along the way, you'll meet scattered NPCs who make the world feel even more tragic and abandoned. If you love the feeling of Metroid-style isolation with a more emotional undercurrent, Ghost Songs deserves a place in your 2026 queue.
Hello, boys and girls.
Fearmonium. Fearmonium takes darkness in a different direction. It doesn't send you into a cursed castle or demon pit. It drops you into a troubled mind. Originally released in 2021 on PC, with console versions following later, this Metroidvania is set inside the psyche of a boy dealing with trauma and fear. The enemies and environments are twisted psychological manifestations, creepy clowns, distorted toys, and a carnival imagery that shifts from fun to unsettling in seconds. Combat and movement are classic 2D action fare. Melee attacks, abilities, and upgrades that open up new routes, but the framing gives everything extra weight. As you explore deeper, you're not just powering up, you're peeling back the layers of this kid's pain. The hand-drawn art and expressive animations sell both the whimsy and the horror, making the world feel like a nightmare cartoon. If you want something dark that hits more emotionally than graphically, Fearmonium is a fascinating, offbeat pick. Lost Ruins. Lost Ruins feels like one of those fan-translated PC games you might have stumbled on in the early 2000s, except it's slick, intentional, and way more brutal. Released in 2021 on PC and later on consoles, it stars a schoolgirl protagonist who wakes up in a monster-infested dungeon with no memory and no idea why everything wants her dead. The combat is surprisingly deep, built around weapons, spells, and a strong emphasis on environmental interactions. Fire burns oil, ice freezes water, and so on, letting you trap or outsmart enemies instead of just trading hits. Exploration follows the usual Metroidvania pattern of finding keys, abilities, and shortcuts, but the tone is where it gets dark. There's a mix of cute character art and genuinely disturbing enemy designs and fates. The story touches on sacrifice, twisted experiments, and the kind of cruelty that hides behind magic and dark fantasy. If you like your anime aesthetics mixed with real danger and a nasty edge, Lost Ruins is a perfect closer for a 2026 list like yours. And that's my list of the 16 absolute darkest Metroidvania games you should be playing in 2026. If you're a retro fan who loves atmosphere, challenge, and unforgettable worlds, these titles are pure gold. Let me know in the comments which one hit your soul the hardest, and don't forget to share your own dark favorites. If you enjoyed this list, hit that like button, subscribe for more retro goodness, and I'll see you in the next video.